se trata d'un coup.
You know that special feeling when you finally see the bigger picture? When you look at something from a different angle and suddenly it all makes sense. When people from different backgrounds and cultures work together, sharing insights, looking for answers, posing new questions about the world we live in. Remarkable things happen at intersections. And the European University Institute in Florence is where you experience it. Pursue your PhD in economics, history, law, or political and social sciences.
I decided to do my PhD at the EUI because it provides a unique structure of the PhD, where you can fully work on your own project.
Our professors are eager to help you contribute in your own way to a better understanding of our ever-changing world. Our campus is located among the beautiful hills overlooking Florence. We offer a well-structured and fully funded PhD program with close supervision, advanced courses, and training opportunities.
The UI makes a huge effort in bringing top professionals to come and give seminars to us. They also pay a lot of attention in making sure that they're matching with your supervisor.
You will have access to our first-class research library and the historical archives of the European Union.
To me, the role of archive is fundamental. As an early modern historian, but at UI you find one of the most important archives in Europe.
You'll get plenty of opportunity to interact with visiting experts and leaders.
I would say that the student life at the UI is very lively. I mean, there are many clubs for sports activities or acting or music.
Experience a truly international environment in the company of over 1,000 scholars from 75 countries. You will make connections for life.
Why would I recommend the EY to new researchers? Well, I think it is because in this place you come here with your own research topic. You come here on your own proposal, and I think that's really unique. And I think if you use it right, then you can really make it an unforgettable time.
Apply now and become the best you can be.
We turn to network science for answers. Our studies suggest that we can open the economy as long as we protect workers who for their jobs must travel far. Network science tells us that a small fraction of long-distance connections is responsible for the rapid spread of a virus. This is illustrated in the top two charts. Block these long-range connections and the virus will suddenly spread much more slowly. This is illustrated in the bottom two charts. Also, new flare-ups of the virus will remain local longer, allowing geographically confined interventions at the city or neighborhood level. This is illustrated in the bottom left chart, where the virus gradually and slowly grows outward from an initial outbreak. By contrast, in the top right chart, the virus is quickly everywhere. So what should a government do if it has limited medical resources, limited ability and willingness to impose on individual freedoms? We believe that it may wish to focus those limited resources heavily on long-range commuting, transport and delivery sectors. To open up the local economy, give people local breathing room, but prevent the transmission of the virus over long distances. Fortunately, because most face-to-face contact is naturally very close to home, the burden on the economy and society may remain limited.
L'Europe ne se fera pas d'un coup.
You know that special feeling when you finally see the bigger picture? When you look at something from a different angle and suddenly it all makes sense. When people from different backgrounds and cultures work together, sharing insights, looking for answers, posing new questions about the world we live in. Remarkable things happen at intersections. And the European University Institute in Florence is where you experience it. Pursue your PhD in economics, history, law, or political and social sciences.
I decided to do my PhD at the EUI because it provides a unique structure of the PhD, where you can fully work on your own project.
Our professors are eager to help you contribute in your own way to a better understanding of our ever-changing world. Our campus is located among the beautiful hills overlooking Florence. We offer a well-structured and fully funded PhD program with close supervision, advanced courses, and training opportunities.
The UI makes a huge effort in bringing top professionals to come and give seminars to us. They also pay a lot of attention in making sure that they're matching with your supervisor.
You will have access to our first-class research library and the historical archives of the European Union.
To me, the role of archive is fundamental. As an early modern historian, but at UI you find one of the most important archives in Europe.
You'll get plenty of opportunity to interact with visiting experts and leaders.
I would say that the student life at the UI is very lively. I mean, there are many clubs for sports activities or acting or music.
Experience a truly international environment in the company of over 1,000 scholars from 75 countries. You will make connections for life.
Why would I recommend the EUI to new researchers? Well, I think it is because in this place you come here with your own research topic. You come here on your own proposal, and I think that's really unique. And I think if you use it right, then you can really make it an unforgettable time.
Apply now and become the best you can be.
We turn to network science for answers. Our studies suggest that we can open the economy as long as we protect workers who for their jobs must travel far. Network science tells us that a small fraction of long-distance connections is responsible for the rapid spread of a virus. This is illustrated in the top two charts. Block these long-range connections and the virus will suddenly spread much more slowly. This is illustrated in the bottom two charts. Also, new flare-ups of the virus will remain local longer, allowing geographically confined interventions at the city or neighborhood level. This is illustrated in the bottom left chart, where the virus gradually and slowly grows outward from an initial outbreak. By contrast, in the top right chart, the virus is quickly everywhere. So what should a government do if it has limited medical resources, limited ability and willingness to impose on individual freedoms? We believe that it may wish to focus those limited resources heavily on long-range commuting, transport and delivery sectors. To open up the local economy, give people local breathing room, but prevent the transmission of the virus over long distances. Fortunately, because most face-to-face contact is naturally very close to home, the burden on the economy and society may remain limited.
L'Europe ne se fera pas d'un coup.
You know that special feeling when you finally see the bigger picture? When you look at something from a different angle and suddenly it all makes sense. When people from different backgrounds and cultures work together, sharing insights, looking for answers, posing new questions about the world we live in. Remarkable things happen at intersections. And the European University Institute in Florence is where you experience it. Pursue your PhD in economics, history, law, or political and social sciences.
I decided to do my PhD at the EUI because it provides a unique structure of the PhD. where you can fully work on your own project.
Our professors are eager to help you contribute in your own way to a better understanding of our ever-changing world. Our campus is located among the beautiful hills overlooking Florence. We offer a well-structured and fully funded PhD program with close supervision, advanced courses, and training opportunities.
Hello and welcome to the special edition of the State of the Union, organised by the European University Institute. Thank you for joining the opening session of Europe, Managing the COVID-19 Crisis. After the opening addresses, today's first panel will look at the impact of coronavirus on health policy and society. Participants in the virtual room can use the Q&A button to submit a query for the question and answer session. Use the hashtag #SOUCovid19 on social media. Thank you and enjoy the session.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you at the 10th edition of our State of the Union Conference. This is traditionally for the European University Institute one of the highlights of our academic year. It's a moment where we bring together hundreds of scholars and practitioners to discuss topics of high relevance for Europe. Needless to say, this year the plan has to be revisited in the wake of the COVID crisis. That crisis, as we all now can see, has had a powerful impact on so many levels. It has put our health systems under strain. It has led to a rediscovery of the state. Our liberties have been curtailed in more than one way. And equally significantly, we have seen once more that cooperation and solidarity are, well, certainly not innate for states and governments, even when they're faced with what are evidently transnational challenges. There is, of course, with all this, a series of changes underway that will have undoubtedly a lasting impact on our societies, on our economies, on attitudes towards the European project and at many other levels. There is therefore around these issues so many themes that need to be further explored by scholars and the social scientists and the specialists in the humanities that we have at the European University Institute are already at work to give life to a very ambitious research platform on those issues. In the meantime, however, it has seemed to us appropriate to devote this entirely online edition of the State of the Union Conference to the COVID crisis, to its management and its aftermath. We are extremely pleased to see that such a high number of important speakers have accepted our invitation. I trust you will enjoy today's discussion, and I look forward to welcoming you next year in Florence this time for the next edition of the State of the Union Conference. But in the meantime, let me give the floor to our partner in this event, the Mayor of Florence, Dario Nardella. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It would have been a pleasure to welcome you, as by tradition, in Palazzo Vecchio, where preparations were already at full steam for both the State of the Union and the Festival of Europe. I welcome the decision of the European University Institute to keep this important yearly appointment, at least in a virtual way, of the Conference on the State of the Union. Florence wants to be one of the cities where the debate on the future of Europe takes place. The forthcoming opening of the School of Transnational Governance of the EUI will be a further step in this direction, and the academic institutions, as well as Florentine civic society, are eager to contribute to its activity. The lessons learned so far in the pandemic crisis are such a tragedy that they need a multi-level response at European, national, regional and city level. You will not be surprised if I stress this last aspect. We need a more structured involvement of cities in the decision-making process of European policies. Mayors are close to citizens, and especially in this difficult time, we need to bring Europe closer to citizens and to fight populism. Together with Eurocities, we are working on new ideas for the present crisis and, in the long term, for a renewed European vision. I shall look forward to seeing you all next year, here in Florence, in Palazzo Vecchio, with a renewed European spirit and enthusiasm. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to attend the State of the Union again this year. I would have preferred to speak live, but I do appreciate the efforts made by the European University Institute in order to maintain this event despite this emergency. This crisis favors nationalism and the populism against Europe and the lack of solidarity. Among discussions on the recovery, ideological attitudes are prevailing over pragmatism. The post-COVID recovery must be supported by an extraordinary and coordinated plan of public investment at European level. Otherwise, we will face severe consequences given the interconnection of our economies. Only with strong measures impacting at the local level can we increase growth after the crisis and be prepared for the future. It is now or never to put forward a more ambitious European budget, reinforcing European policies such as cohesion, the most important funds to develop the European regions. It is not only a question of solidarity that too many tend to forget, but it is also an economic imperative. Thank you.
In occasione dell'anniversario della dichiarazione Schuman, di cui ricorrono i 70 anni, ci ritroviamo, sebbene con la distanza impostaci dall'attuale pandemia, per fare il punto sullo stato dell'Unione Europea. Ringrazio il Presidente dell'Istituto Universitario Europeo De Hus e saluto tutti gli ospiti in collegamento. L'impatto devastante della pandemia è per certi versi paragonabile a quello di una guerra. Nel 1950 gli Stati europei si trovavano all'indomani di un conflitto terribile che aveva dilaniato famiglie e coscienze e fomentato il risentimento fra i popoli. Gli uomini e le donne di quella generazione, mentre affrontavano la ricostruzione, presero la coraggiosa decisione di ricomporre le fratture e unire quello che era andato distrutto, partendo dalla ricostruzione di un'Europa organizzata e vitale. Grazie alla loro visione politica, il nostro continente ha posto le basi per 70 anni di pace, stabilità diritti e benessere, risultati positivi che tuttavia dinanzi all'emergenza in corso devono essere riaffermati. Il nostro lavoro non è finito. Molto resta ancora da fare per trasformare l'Unione Europea in un'organizzazione pronta a rispondere in maniera efficace e concreta alle esigenze di tutti i suoi cittadini, da Palermo a Rotterdam, da Porto a Cracovia. La sfida del Covid-19 ci ha messo di fronte alla fragilità delle nostre conquiste e al loro carattere fondamentale per la nostra vita e per la nostra economia. Alcuni paesi vicini all'inizio della pandemia hanno cominciato a chiudere le loro frontiere con l'Italia. Si sono registrate richieste di certificazioni Covid-free sui prodotti italiani e l'Italia ha ricevuto aiuti in termini di dispositivi di protezione individuale prima dai paesi extra-UE e poi dai paesi UE. Di fronte a questa situazione ci siamo resi conto di quanto sarebbe limitata la nostra vita se improvvisamente non esistessero più le 4 libertà fondamentali di cui godiamo: libera circolazione delle persone, dei servizi, delle merci e dei capitali e istituzioni forti e credibili che ne garantiscano il rispetto. Quello che l'Italia ha chiesto è una dimostrazione reale di solidarietà da parte europea. Come recita un passaggio della dichiarazione Schuman del maggio 1950, l'Europa non potrà farsi una sola volta, né sarà costruita tutta insieme. Essa sorgerà da realizzazioni concrete che creino anzitutto una solidarietà di fatto. Proprio questa solidarietà, tra l'altro, è in parte già arrivata attraverso le scuse avanzate all'Italia da parte della Presidente von der Leyen e potrà compiersi definitivamente grazie all'impegno a cambiare rotta assunto dalla Presidenza stessa e dal Presidente del Consiglio europeo Michel. È stato messo in campo un ventaglio di strumenti con l'obiettivo di superare a 27 in maniera coordinata la crisi pandemica. La priorità assoluta che tutti condividiamo è quella di salvare vite. Colgo ancora questa occasione per ringraziare i partner europei e i paesi dei Balcani occidentali che ci hanno aiutato con personale medico e infermieristico e materiale sanitario, dimostrando così la loro solidarietà. È stato importante come Unione Europea in ambito sanitario concludere accordi di procurement congiunto per far fronte alla carenza di dispositivi di protezione individuale, di respiratori e di medicinali. Intervenire sui divieti alle esportazioni introdotti unilateralmente da alcuni Stati membri per riportarli ad un coordinamento della Commissione e attuare la cooperazione transfrontaliera sanitaria di emergenza, che ha consentito, sia pure tra iniziali difficoltà, di prestare assistenza a Stati membri in condizioni interne di forte pressione. Vanno anche ricordate le attività comuni di ricerca lanciate nell'ambito del programma Horizon 2020 per cofinanziare progetti di ricerca sull'epidemiologia, la diagnostica, la terapeutica e la gestione clinica nel contenimento e nella prevenzione del coronavirus, nonché le partnership pubblico-private con l'industria farmaceutica per arrivare a formulare un vaccino. La ricerca del vaccino e la sua accessibilità sono elementi essenziali. Ricordo che l'Italia è stato il primo paese a promuovere apertamente la costituzione di un'alleanza internazionale per la ricerca, accesso ed equa distribuzione del vaccino. Ho avanzato la prima proposta alla ministeriale esteri del G7 del 25 marzo scorso, promuovendola poi con i vertici delle Nazioni Unite e dell'Organizzazione Mondiale della Sanità. Alla nostra voce si è unita quella di tanti altri partner europei fino al lancio pochi giorni fa, il 4 maggio, della Pledging Conference per la risposta globale al coronavirus, sotto la presidenza dei leader dell'Unione Europea, Francia, Germania, Italia, Regno Unito, Norvegia e Arabia Saudita. Il nostro Paese contribuirà con 140 milioni di euro alla piattaforma globale di collaborazione per la ricerca, sviluppo, equa distribuzione del vaccino e degli altri trattamenti terapeutici e diagnostici contro il coronavirus, nonché per il rafforzamento dei sistemi sanitari e dell'immunizzazione globale. La salute è un bene pubblico che deve essere garantito a tutti i cittadini e la cui rilevanza va riconosciuta anche a livello delle risorse che auspico l'Unione dedichi al settore d'ora in avanti. L'esigenza di assicurare sistemi sanitari resilienti, meccanismi di tutela della salute delle categorie più deboli e una ricerca efficace in grado di garantire risultati rapidi e condivisi mette in luce la necessità di una revisione nelle linee strategiche finora elaborate per il futuro dell'Unione Europea. Non possiamo dimenticare che l'emergenza sanitaria ha messo l'Unione Europea di fronte alla più grave crisi economica della sua storia. La risposta che stiamo dando e che daremo definirà inevitabilmente il futuro dell'Unione Europea. Le prime risposte sono andate nella giusta direzione. La rimozione dei vincoli europei all'azione degli Stati membri in materia sia di indebitamento sia di aiuto di Stato alle imprese. Il pacchetto d'emergenza con il nuovo strumento SURE per il finanziamento dei sussidi di disoccupazione e della sanità, il rafforzamento dei prestiti della BEI ed è urgente definire ulteriori misure. È necessario fare un salto di qualità, definendo una risposta strutturale da parte dell'Unione. La risposta non può che essere un grande piano per la ricostruzione, un vero recovery plan che dovrà ridefinire il valore aggiunto dell'Europa nella vita e nei bisogni dei suoi cittadini. Il nuovo fondo dovrà essere in grado di finanziarsi sul mercato, raccogliendo le risorse necessarie per il rilancio dell'economia europea. Bisogna agire adesso, farlo subito. La risposta economica dell'Unione Europea alla crisi, cui ho fatto riferimento poco fa, deve aiutarci a riflettere sul carattere incompleto della nostra Unione economica e monetaria. Se ci fossimo dotati per tempo di efficaci strumenti di stabilizzazione macroeconomica, anche finanziati con obbligazioni europee, non ci troveremmo a dover elaborare soluzioni sulla scorta dell'emergenza, bensì saremmo pronti a prevenire in automatico l'acuirsi della recessione. Il Covid ci ha imposto anche, oltre alla risposta economica e sanitaria, una riflessione su come immaginare il nostro futuro comune. La solidarietà e la capacità di gestire le emergenze hanno bisogno di istituzioni forti. Un'occasione per parlarne sarà la prossima conferenza sul futuro dell'Europa. L'Italia, da sempre protagonista nel processo di integrazione europea, è pronta a contribuire con il suo apporto di idee e con la sua esperienza. Avrebbe dovuto prendere il via in questi giorni un processo paneuropeo di consultazione dal basso dei cittadini sul futuro dell'Unione Europea, uno dei punti cardine del programma della Presidente von der Leyen. E anche nell'ambito della conferenza sul futuro dell'Europa auspichiamo un maggiore coinvolgimento dei cittadini che hanno risposto con grande responsabilità alle misure di limitazione delle libertà individuali imposte per far fronte al diffondersi della pandemia. In prospettiva, ci aspettiamo anche una riaffermazione del ruolo globale dell'Unione Europea e della nostra capacità di azione comune, in particolare nel nostro vicinato nel Mediterraneo allargato, regione alla quale dedichiamo ogni anno la conferenza internazionale dei Med Dialogues in dicembre, e nel continente africano, dove la pandemia rischia di esacerbare i conflitti e crearne di nuovi. Il nostro obiettivo condiviso, parlando oggi di Stato dell'Unione, è di giungere a un'Europa forte, determinata, coesa e che abbia sempre ben saldi valori alla base della sua identità. Questa Unione forte e vicina ai suoi cittadini deve valere anche come bussola rispetto alla situazione geopolitica globale, con particolare riferimento alle relazioni con Stati Uniti e Cina. Per essere realmente più forte è necessario realizzare una reale unità di azione dell'Unione Europea affinché parli sempre di più con una voce sola. La forza dell'Unione è data dai 27 Stati membri che la compongono. Così l'Unione Europea potrà interloquire con le altre potenze mondiali e rappresentare quel fattore di stabilità e sicurezza a livello geopolitico globale. Solidarietà e cooperazione sono i due pilastri sui quali deve basarsi non solo la nostra risposta alla pandemia, ma il progetto concreto di un futuro sostenibile ed equo per l'Europa e i suoi cittadini. Vi ringrazio e vi auguro buon lavoro.
Mesdames et messieurs, chers amis qui nous rejoignez à distance, les circonstances font que je ne peux pas m'adresser à vous physiquement, à Florence, comme c'était prévu. Mais c'est bien en ce moment à Florence que mon esprit se trouve au moment où je vous parle, dans cette ville d'où rayonne cet institut universitaire européen et dans ce pays où depuis toujours bat le pouls de l'Europe et où il bat d'autant plus fort ces jours-ci que ce pays souffre tellement de la pandémie. Cela ne va pas vous étonner, c'est auprès de l'illustre italien et européen que fut Alcide de Gasperi que je choisis de chercher mon inspiration. Le 10 décembre 1951, celui qui fut l'un des deux pères fondateurs italiens de l'Europe déclarait ceci lors d'un discours sur le projet de communauté européenne de défense, et je veux le citer. « Les ressemblances et les convergences historiques, les liens brisés et aussitôt renoués nous indiquent que la mise en commun de nos forces éteint nos rancunes et peut nous donner, en Europe, la paix intérieure. L'association de nos expériences redouble nos possibilités nationales en leur donnant un élan nouveau vers la création d'une civilisation encore plus avancée et encore plus élevée. » Lorsque de Gasperi prononce ce discours devant le Conseil de l'Europe, la CECA, pierre angulaire de la future Union européenne, est à ce moment-là en cours de constitution. Mais déjà, ses pères fondateurs proposent aux Européens qui, pourtant, se faisaient la guerre moins de 10 ans plus tôt, de former une union, précisément en matière de défense. Ce qui m'intéresse dans ce propos aujourd'hui, ce n'est pas tellement le sujet de défense, même si le contexte géostratégique doit, à mon avis, amener notre Union à se mobiliser davantage sur ce thème. Non, aujourd'hui, ce qui m'intéresse, c'est la réaction à une crise majeure, la guerre. Lorsque les Européens ont, comme le disait de Gasperi, mis leurs forces en commun en éteignant leur rancune, et cela pour inventer quelque chose qui n'avait encore jamais été fait dans l'histoire de l'humanité, le plus grand espace de liberté et de prospérité créé volontairement par des peuples libres. Ce que de Gasperi annonçait comme une civilisation encore plus avancée, encore plus élevée, aujourd'hui, alors que plusieurs comparent la crise du coronavirus à une guerre et que d'autres ne se retrouvent pas dans cette métaphore, mais peu importe ce débat parce que finalement chacun trouve ses motivations là où il peut pour combattre l'adversité, dans ce moment, tout le monde est d'accord sur une chose, cette pandémie, la première depuis un siècle, est la plus grande crise qui frappe la planète depuis la Seconde Guerre mondiale. La question que je veux poser ici et maintenant, en dirigeant européen qui cherche avec vous à Florence l'inspiration auprès de son illustre aîné italien, cette question c'est la suivante. Quel est le projet européen et inspirant que nous devons nous fixer? Quel est le projet qui nous amènera à tirer toutes les leçons de l'épreuve que nous sommes en train de traverser pour en sortir transformés, plus forts, plus résistants, tout simplement pour en sortir meilleurs? Quel horizon voulons-nous donner ensemble aux citoyens européens? Parce que notre défi n'est pas simplement de traverser la crise. Les pandémies, comme les crises économiques, ont un début, un milieu, une fin. Nous avons commencé à livrer la bataille en y jetant d'ores et déjà des moyens considérables et nous savons que nous remporterons cette bataille. Il n'y a pas le moindre doute à cet égard. Mais le vrai défi qui est immense pour notre génération doit consister, au-delà de la simple victoire sur cette pandémie, à retourner en notre faveur cette crise d'une ampleur exceptionnelle, hors du commun pour notre génération, et surtout à puiser dans cette crise les leçons et l'énergie transformatrice pour nous orienter vers un horizon européen et un monde meilleur. Relever ce défi, ce n'est pas simplement une nécessité très pratique ou très concrète, c'est aussi un devoir qui nous interpelle particulièrement à l'heure où la pandémie emporte aussi les derniers représentants d'une génération. Cette génération qui a connu les affres de la Seconde Guerre et puis qui a eu la force et l'énergie de reconstruire l'Europe, le courage de construire l'Union européenne. Quel doit donc être notre objectif? Chacun, chacune d'entre nous en fait l'expérience intime ces dernières semaines. Le Covid-19 a mis en danger nos santé physique, morale, mentale, mais il a aussi brutalement attaqué la santé sociale et économique de nos pays. Nous avons vécu ces dernières décennies en Europe avec comme point de mire la paix et la prospérité. Et naturellement, il n'est pas question de remettre en cause ces objectifs centraux pour le projet européen. Mais ma conviction est que nous devons désormais les lier à une valeur qui à la fois les englobe et les dépasse. Une valeur que nous avons redécouverte ces jours-ci avec une acuité d'autant plus nouvelle qu'elle nous a paru soudain, si fragile. La dignité, la dignité et le bien-être. Et le bien-être, c'est quoi? C'est ce que le virus, dans le fond, a touché en son cœur et qui se caractérise en termes de qualité bien plus qu'en termes de quantité. Les qualités de vie personnelles, physiques, mentales, sociales, économiques, culturelles, les libertés fondamentales, ces valeurs qui sont les conditions essentielles de la dignité de la personne, ne peuvent s'épanouir que dans une société attentive, une société bienveillante. Cette société bienveillante où le bien-être personnel et collectif sont les conditions l'un de l'autre. Eh bien oui, je veux appeler à ce que nous en fassions notre nouvel horizon européen, vers lequel rassembler les énergies de nos concitoyens. Je pense d'abord au bien-être santé. Nous redécouvrons combien ce droit fondamental est directement conditionné par des systèmes de soins performants, qui ne sont absolument rien sans des femmes et des hommes reconnus à leur juste valeur. Je pense aussi au bien-être climatique. Il est menacé par un danger peut-être moins perceptible, mais plus existentiel encore en réalité qu'une pandémie. Je pense aussi bien sûr au bien-être numérique, qui s'inscrit dans un champ absolument immense d'opportunités, de développement technologique, mais aussi dans le même temps de défis. Et je pense naturellement au bien-être social, parce que celui-ci requiert la recherche constante d'accord, d'équilibre entre les acteurs de la vie économique et sociale. Mais il suppose aussi des sociétés libres, ouvertes, basées sur des états de droit, transparents et garants des valeurs fondamentales. Et cet état de droit, ne le perdons pas de vue, il s'y pose sur le plan national comme sur le plan européen, la séparation des pouvoirs, le respect mutuel entre les institutions légitimes et démocratiques, dans le respect du principe sacré de la hiérarchie des normes et de la primauté du droit européen. Enfin, cette société bienveillante ne pourrait pas être crédible si elle n'englobait pas dans sa préoccupation de dignité, de bien-être, de progrès, le reste du monde. L'objectif est ambitieux, mais il est aussi rassembleur. Et il nécessite une feuille de route concrète. C'est le sens du plan de relance et de transformation qu'il nous appartient d'écrire et de mettre en œuvre. Et à ce propos, on a parlé d'un nouveau plan Marshall, du nom du secrétaire d'État américain qui l'avait conçu. Pourquoi pas appeler ce projet de plan de relance le plan de Gasperi, lui qui a été l'un des principaux metteurs en œuvre du plan de reconstruction de l'Europe. Je lance la proposition, ce plan dont nous avons présenté l'architecture, nous allons nous employer à le développer, en coopération avec toutes les institutions européennes, bien sûr, avec les 27 États membres, mais en coopération surtout avec l'ensemble des citoyens européens qui doivent adhérer, être mobilisés, participer à la construction de ce projet commun pour bâtir ce destin qui nous rassemble. Le Green Deal, l'agenda digital doivent en constituer à mes yeux des épines dorsales, après la crise encore plus qu'avant la crise. Tout simplement parce que ces deux projets constituent de formidables instruments de transformation et de progrès. Le premier, parce qu'il consistera à convertir une nécessité existentielle pour la planète, pour l'humanité, en opportunité économique et d'amélioration du bien-être et de la dignité. Et le second, car il nous permettra toujours, au profit de cet objectif commun de bien-être individuel et collectif, d'exploiter les gisements d'un genre nouveau que sont les données numériques. Pour viser cet objectif que je veux proposer et pour trouver les moyens de cette ambition, nul doute qu'il nous faudra être à la hauteur des pères fondateurs en termes de capacité à dépasser nos différences, à voir plus loin que les petits intérêts à court terme, et ce n'est pas là le moindre de nos défis. Enfin, on devra disposer de l'énergie, des moyens humains. Et à ce sujet, je partageais une conviction profonde. Nous, les Européens, nous avons en nous les ressources nécessaires pour créer cette Europe et pour participer à ce monde meilleur. Nous avons ce potentiel de résilience et de solidarité dont nous avons fait preuve ces jours-ci. Et nous avons cette capacité d'innovation et de renouvellement qui a permis à l'Europe d'atteindre son niveau inégalé dans le monde de prospérité et de liberté. Comme Alcide de Gasperi et les pères fondateurs avaient puisé dans les épreuves de la guerre leur force transformatrice, je forme le vœu, et pour ce qui me concerne, je veux prendre l'engagement que notre génération puisse œuvrer à la réalisation d'une Europe qui gardera tout ce qu'elle a réussi de meilleur, mais une Europe qui, unissant les forces et éteignant les rancunes, se rapprochera de ce qui nous est apparu ces dernières semaines comme si simple, si précieux, si essentiel, et pourtant plus fragile que nous ne l'avions jamais imaginé. Une société de dignité et de bienveillance. Et c'est ainsi que notre union sortira de cette épreuve actuelle, plus forte, plus solidaire et plus unie que jamais. Je vous remercie de m'avoir écouté. Je vous souhaite une journée de débat intense, énergique, passionnant et inspirant. Vive l'Europe!
Okay, welcome everyone to our panel on health policy and society. We have several experts here on public health. Let me introduce first Andrea Amon, European Center for Disease Prevention and Control. Next, Dorit Nitsan, Regional Emergency Director of the World Health Organization. Okay. Then Chuji Yu from the School of Health Sciences, Wuhan University, and Asya Brandrup-Lukhanov, Specialist in Public Health. Welcome, everyone. And I wanted to start out with a general question that's interesting very many people is, what are we learning now from this pandemic in terms of best practices in dealing with it? We hear all the time about this country did it right, this country did it wrong, but that's changing every day. What have you learned? What can you tell us? So let's start with Andrea Amon. If you can tell us your lessons, perspective, what is the recommended best practice?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would actually say we are still in the learning process. But what we have seen now since beginning of May is that it appears that in most of the EU countries, the peak of the first wave seems to have passed. And that we think is largely due to these non-pharmaceutical interventions that almost all countries have put in practice. So we are seeing actually, compared to beginning of April, a 45% decrease in the number of cases. Now, the member states, the practices and measures that they have taken have been somewhat different, but broadly, as the results show, effective. Now, ECDC, we have a good record here. What measures have the countries taken? And they are tailored to their specific needs, the context, circumstances, and capacities in these countries. So why it is still early to make final conclusions about what measure worked best is also due to the fact that they have been taken as a package. So we see the result of the package, not necessarily of the single measures. So that is something that we may now get more insight in, because countries are either easing now single measures or smaller packages. So that might help us to get more insight here.
Mm-hmm. Great. Dorit Nitsan, what do you think?
Yes, thank you. To add to Andrea, I would go to what we are learning already, and this is before the measures were taken and all through the way. And this is that, first of all countries even those that have the best kind of health systems in place got hit. And so no one is actually resilient for now, more or less. But we see those that were able to cope with it quite well. And what I see and I think is at the center are the public health services, and also supported by primary care that is people-centered with universal health coverage. This is one thing that we see that helped country to cope well. The second issue is preparedness with, again, whole of government, whole of society approach. And what we also see that those with command and control systems at all levels, coming from the central to the local, those were doing better, have been doing better. The third issue is the people, the trust, the social contract that communities have with their leaders that is probably based on long-term trust-building process. It didn't arrive to us in 1 second, with transparency, democratic features that are adaptive and agile. And those systems that listen to the people and are used to do that are doing better. So all those P, the public health, primary care, people-centered, preparedness, and people trust, I think are the ones that we see already helping countries to cope. Mm-hmm. Over to you.
Okay. Truiji, what do you have as your experience and what can you recommend? Your mic is off.
Sorry about that. And from point of view, the epidemic is first reported in China in December 2019, and the epidemic was controlled in the mid or later March. I think there are a lot of things and a lot of experience China have passed and get, and I don't know whether you're thinking that's applicable to other countries or not due to cultural difference, and also the society is very different, law different, everything is different. But I think definitely there are something people can look from each other from different countries to see why it's happening, how do they control these things. And also, I think people right now, they underestimated the contagious of the virus at the beginning. Every country just thinking that's not a serious problem. And then I think we overestimated the severity of the disease. I mean, we think it has very high case of fatality. And we also naive to believe the virus will be gone very soon. I think all this thing has many people from my point of view, whenever if you have a high case fatality, you think, oh, this is very, the case fatality is very high. Right now in China, people may be thinking, oh, we can control, we can eliminate the virus. I think it's all not true. And I think the world need to do collaborate together and to do, possibly the virus will live for a long time with us. And so doesn't matter, we just has epidemic started or we already control epidemic. Definitely the virus epidemic will exist somewhere in the world around for a while.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Asya, do you have any follow-up questions or comments?
Yes, thank you very much to all of you for your statements. I have a question to Andrea and also Xuji. Andrea, you mentioned that the interventions that were taken now were a package of interventions, and therefore it's difficult to single out the effect of individual interventions in that package. And also in China, I mean, so many things were done at the same time. So my question to both of you is, how do you see within that package of interventions the effect of testing, including testing of asymptomatic people as a contribution to the positive effect in controlling the epidemic?
In my view, testing cases early, finding contacts, tracing contacts is something that has to be done throughout this epidemic, regardless of the other measures. What we saw is that countries build up testing capacity, laboratory capacity to actually perform the test. But then when the case numbers rose, the testing material, the testing kits were scarce. So necessarily there had to be a prioritization as to who was being tested. And it is very clear that first the symptomatic cases and then the frontline workers should be tested. And only then you can go to saying the next step would be all those that you identify as contacts to a confirmed case that may or may not have symptoms. They should also all be tested. So that is sort of a broadening. Now we're talking about also taking samples of the population to see how far the infection has already spread in the population. So I think it is a gradual expansion, starting with the symptomatic cases and then going further out.
Mm-hmm. G, what do you?
Yeah, and for testing a systematic persons in China right now, and I don't think they test for you know because China is so huge, not everybody test, but mainly for people from Hubei area, Wuhan area, they are tested, and these people whenever they go to work, they are tested. And not many people really in China right now is a systematic and carried virus. Very few people, and but China don't want a rebound of the epidemic. They spend a lot of energy. And last week I just with a company. They tell me they have tested millions of people in one company, and mainly they do right now they do nucleic acid test. They also do a serology test, and anybody right now is thinking they go to work in one area, they will be tested. I just went to test yesterday, and because I work in Wuhan University, and so not many people in China right now because basically the epidemic is controlled very well. I know people in the West they don't believe China controlled that, but not many cases. There are a few cases, they are asystematic. And these asystematic, there are two categories. One category is they will become systematic, they get sick. And other people, they just asystematic forever, they just recover for a while. And so that's what they try to do. I think it's really dependent. Whenever if you get a disease epidemic controlled, so you want to resume the work, so you have to test the people who from high risk area.
Mm-hmm. Let me follow up on that with the test, because I had read something interesting about the strategy in Wuhan that when not enough tests were available, a very important screening was temperature screening. And so people with an elevated temperature were then further tested, for example, by X-ray. I think it was a CAT scan of the lungs to see if these plaques or whatever it is were building up. So as a kind of, without enough direct SARS-2 tests, that they were able to test in another way. Was this what you experienced? Is the temperature test at all helpful?
I don't know, because I don't know, but in Wuhan, everywhere you will be tested for temperature. Doesn't matter. Whenever you pass through anywhere, I get off where I'm my apartment, I'll be measured for temperature. I get into the campus of the university, I will be tested. Anywhere you go, you will be tested for temperature.
Mm-hmm. And is that a good practice? Do you think that actually is helpful?
I think so. It's helpful. You can identify these people with fever, and you just mentioned they will be scanned. I think whenever anybody right now in China, if they get a fever, they will be hospitalized. They will be sent to hospital.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea, during the epidemic right now, because China has enforced for temperature test. That's already for 3 months, more than 3 months for temperature test.
Yeah. Great. Now, I have also a kind of follow-up and lead into our second round of questioning for Dorit. You mentioned command and control. Well, aside from command and control in a national setting, what about the international setting? What is the, system that needs to be put in place to react in a more coordinated way, to get supplies where they are needed, to get rid of production block? Is there any work being undone on that? And what do you think is possible? Bill Gates has suggested we need to have germ games to better prepare to get these systems in place. What is your take on this?
Yes, I think this is another good opportunity to assess how we are all working in the global arena and how we share information and trust each other. And for that, I think we have the best of the tools that we could have had until today, and these are the international health regulations. And in 2005, as you all know, it was a change and included all hazards and different aspects. And I believe that this is a great tool. What we will have to learn later on, and we cannot do it now because we are really chasing this new virus and develop the doctrine and the how-to while we respond. But I think later on we'll have to see how to ensure that the trust is built among countries to the level that we do not start using other tools except for the healthier ones among ourselves. And for the leadership, I think we have, if what we see today and together with the different regional, like the ECDC or the African CDC and the regional public health authorities, and also locals and the sub-inter-countries authorities, we have the tools in hand. We have to upgrade and go into some innovative approach. We have to do other things, but we have those. What we have to ensure is that there is kind of self-discipline and that every country knows that we share the information, that they share it according to the IHR, share the daily information, and we trust each other because we are all together in this. And I don't think the structure will make the difference. It's something more because none of the international bodies can overtake the local governance and democracies or any other authorities in place. We have to learn to work together, and that will take some time. I think this is a good opportunity. Every pandemic teaches us something, and I think this pandemic teaches us about solidarity, cross-wide solidarity, and not point fingers while we all fight together.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you.
Great, thanks. I'd like to turn now to Andrea. You mentioned those packages, and this raises a general question of causal identification. We're now having so many things looking at, correlations rather than real causality. And I'm wondering, what do you think of proposals like there was a Norwegian scientist proposed having a school experiment, that you really did a controlled experiments with school openings in Norway to really be able to see what the impact of that is, or other types of experiments. I mean, there have been some of curative, but where do you see scope for this, or is this really a problem, ethical or otherwise, or to get people to agree? How can we really move ahead in identifying causally what is most effective?
Yeah, as I said before, now that countries are looking into modifying some of these measures in the big package, we may get more insight into the effect. That is independently possible whether they do it in a country that they open some schools and others not, and then compare what is the effect within their own country. But we can also do it between the countries. So if one country opens the schools, if another country doesn't, then we can also see some comparisons. So I think I wouldn't call it experiments, but I think it is just a means, because it's new territory for us. This whole virus is new territory for us. So we have to get some more knowledge. I think we learned a lot already in the first 3-4 months, but there are still gaps. And one of the gaps is what is really effective. Lessons from other viruses may not help us, because this virus has specific characteristics that an influenza virus doesn't have. Mm-hmm. So we cannot just transfer the experience from one virus to the other. So I think it is really now important that certain parameters are monitored very closely when these measures are adjusted, and that is the case number, of course, the mortality, what happens with the vulnerable population, and also what happens with the healthcare capacity. Mm-hmm. And I think then we can, when putting all these experiences together, we can learn collectively something.
Mm-hmm. Asia, do you have follow-up comments or questions?
I think it was Suji.
Yeah. Yeah, I think right now it's mainly, especially in Europe right now, it's most country, and you have to get the inflection point, and your case right now have a drop, and so I don't know when already start or when you plan to start in Europe, I mean, to resume the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I can maybe ask a follow-up question that fits to that, and also to what Dorrit was saying about coming back to local governance. And I mean, many countries are now trying models where not the whole country is going the same way, but those parts of the country that are most affected or least affected are trying out different things. And so my question is really to all of you: how do you see these differential attempts at interventions, and how can we best also at international level learn from these more regionalized approaches and attempts to find ways of control and efficient packages?
So I think Dorrit, I guess you were the address.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, I think that going to this new normal, the new reality where we are going to live with until further notice, I think that requires a few things in place, and that's why it has to be tailored. As Andrea said, it is tailored to the country needs and the country context, because each of the countries have to know what they can do, and we have the parameters and the indicators and the tools that we recommend together with ECDC for the countries to have in place. And this, among others, I think that it's very important to be able to have this self-discipline, and that people that have signs and symptoms of something that could show them, that tell them that they might have the COVID-19, they identify themselves, they step forward but isolate themselves first. So isolate, identify, isolate, and then all the rest that we said, test and contact trace and quarantine. I think countries that have that capacity in place and ability to also absorb and have policies and strategies how to deal with tourists or travelers or people that arrive into the countries. Those countries have probably strong public health measures in place, together, side by side with the primary care, with the hospitals, and with ability to focus on the most vulnerable. These countries can slowly ease the measures step by steps and then see how it goes. But to go into normality without having these measures in place, then what did we get? Because we have to remember that the measures were taken, all the public health and social measures were put in place just because it was not able to control the outbreak otherwise at that time. We gave the window of opportunity to get ready, to get organized, and to put ourselves together with the command and control system at the local levels. And now when we go back, it has to be really tailored to the communities, to the capacities, to the people, and to the structures. And for that, step by step, we will be able to define the new normal for each of the countries or towns or cities or regions in Europe. Mm-hmm. Over to you, Asia.
Okay. Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Because I also think there are situations in some countries, epidemiological situations that justify and require different approaches within a country. But what is crucial throughout this whole time is that there's a constant dialogue with the population from the authorities, that the people understand why they can't go back to where they were before, why it's still necessary that some of their normal freedoms are limited, so that they keep engaged. And as they were at the beginning, when these measures were put in place, almost in every country, the polls showed a large consent within the population with these measures. But it's going after a month or 6 weeks. I mean, it's sort of going down. If there is not a constant reminder, a thanking to the population for their sacrifices that they do, but also stressing the importance not to give up. It isn't a sprint. We have to run for a long time, and they all have to contribute. I think this is very important.
Okay. People have been mentioning the public. So now I'm hoping to show you some 2 slides that were prepared by YouGov in a cooperation that we have with them. They have given us survey materials, and this is also up on the website. But the first slide would be willingness to self-isolate. So I don't know if that's come up because I have a different view than the public. But you see that? Okay, great. And by the way, as long as I'm turning to the public, I'd like to turn to our larger audience and point out there is a button on your screen at the top right that you can press to send in a question. And these questions will be fielded by Tamara Popic, a Max Weber Fellow at the EUI, who is off screen, but she will collate your questions and communicate them to me. So feel free to send a question to that link. So as we see here with willingness to self-isolate, we see differences amongst countries, but we see also a common trend that is sinking. Now, we don't know how bad that is. Is this a really low level? Because the lowest is Germany at 75% are willing to self-isolate. So that is a large amount of people. The US, the week of the 20th of April, was at 83%, but now we see these protests in the US, and it's unclear. What I've understood from other polls is that there are visible protests, but that does not reflect actually a larger public opinion, because most people are answering polls in the US as well, saying they are willing to self-isolate and they do not want to end the lockdown too early. But in any case, one real issue is, what will the public comply with? and what are the different factors that go into that. If we could have the next slide, please. I'll just show you briefly, because I cannot control it. Here we go, the government's handling of the crisis. So just to point out a few trends here. So we see, for example, that Denmark has been consistently quite high, as well as Norway, Finland, also on the higher side, but not as high as Denmark. Then we see Germany. The US is down at 47% approved now of the government's handling of the crisis, whereas France and Spain are at lower levels, whereas Italy, that was also hit hard like France and Spain, is at a higher level. So this is a critical question, but we cannot just extrapolate, as we were saying before, with causal identification. Just because we think something happened, we need more research on exactly what the public responds to. But we do observe that the public does respond. Also, previous research has shown the public responds very much to how messages are communicated. So not only what is said, but the kinds of arguments that are used. So, for example, tax compliance is almost as high when people send out a moral message that it's your duty as a citizen to comply with reporting your foreign income. This was an experiment in Norway as part of the Welfare State Futures Program. That is almost as high as threatening a punishment. So we're learning also more and more about how governments communicate messages. And indeed, I would say, based on my research, this is a common trend, at least in Europe, in health policy, is looking much more at democratic governance. How is the public involved in healthcare and healthcare governance? That is a newer trend rather than, so we have a kind of mixed message. Command and control is very good for mobilizing the resources, but the public has to be pulled with it. So I was wondering if our panelists have something to say about public reactions and what you've learned about that. Would you like to start, G? If you have comments on the public, since it's maybe a different set of attitudes and.
Yes, and this is not surprise, but I do think maybe the country, when you have more cases there, people will have a feeling the government do not do very well, I think, and that's maybe one point of my point of view. And how do you think, is that possible? When you have more cases, people just do not feel good. And another way, I'm thinking, and so for right now, and when you have the cases controlled, and possibly people will feel better. And that if you look for the US and the people constantly thinking, more than 50% of people thinking, and the government's not doing enough, I think that's possible because they have most cases there. And so, but right now, I think for the Europe right now already, just I say, you got an inflection point, and I look at most of the European countries right now, the cases is decline, and but surprising for me, some of the country, even the some country has actually, if you look for based on population, their cases are not low, but basically, but the people thinking the government is doing very well. How do you think of these things?
So what about Andrea? Do you have a response to that?
Well, I think we would need to really look into different aspects here, because the assessment of a population to what their government does in such a crisis is one thing, but it usually, I think the levels may also depend on the general feeling what the population to the government has. And there are differences in also within Europe, that in some countries people trust the government and in other countries they don't. And I think that in the latter, the level is already much lower. So I think we have to put this in the general context also of a country. But I think especially the first slide, it showed exactly what I have been saying. Without really a supporting communication to the people in a country, these measures just take their toll. And there are principal concepts how to deal with compliance to these kind of measures in the population. One is that you enforce it, and the other one is that you empower the people, that they feel the necessity to comply with these instructions themselves, that they feel self-responsible for themselves, but also for the people around them. And I think that is a communication issue also. I mean, apart from making the conscious decision which way you want to go. And that is why I think with all the efforts that are being done, we still can ramp up the risk communication further.
Now, that was one of our questions from the audience. How do you encourage, what is the strategy? So it seems communication is important, but what exactly works in this communication? So for example, this was noted by Farid Zakaria in his newsletter today, that in Slovakia, it was very important that politicians wore masks and they were on television. In fact, they were challenged on a TV show. Don't tell others to do things you don't do yourself. So then they all put on masks. And after that, there was very, very high compliance. In general, there seems to be very high compliance in Eastern Europe, for example. So is that the pre-existing culture or a combination, or what do you think is effective?
Me?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I think for the people, culture, we can see from this time, culture and the system of the country really affect how effective your response. And your culture also helps a lot in the control the epidemic. Let's say in China and other East Asian countries, and the people, when government order them to wear masks, they wear masks. And very few of them do not wear masks, and they even be arrested. But you know, and in most people, they cooperate with the government to wear the mask. I don't know exactly like the people in the US and Europe, they say, some people, scientists say the mask do not prevent the virus. Yes, sure, the regular mask is not produced to filter the virus out, but we have to think about that. We have to think about that. The disease is transmitted mainly by droplet, and the droplet is heavier. They can fall to the floor rapidly. But when you close to a person, if they are sick, and that droplet can easily to fly to another person, and thinking about in Asia, not in US, and the density of population is very high. It's not like in the US, the density is low. And in China, you go to anywhere, you go to on the street, you constantly with the crowd. So I think the mask really help to protect the people. How you efficient for that, I don't know. And nobody tests on that. And the people follow the government, and it's everybody have to wear it, and it doesn't matter. Even though right now in China you still have to wear the mask, and the people they follow it. And in the U.S., in the West, people just do not think wear a mask is a normal thing. I don't know, is that because of historically, or just because they had the SARS before, and people more willing to wear the mask? I don't know. People say maybe because of the SARS. Some people say, oh, maybe because before people willing to wear mask. I don't know, but I think that anyway, and it's easier to persuade the people in China or other Asian country to wear the mask than I think in the West. That's for sure.
Dorrit, I think you wanted to say something on that too.
Yes, thank you. I really, and to add to the complexities and the confounding factors and the correlations with other determinants, what I think is that the trust is also reflecting the services that have been long time in place, including universal health care, including access to quality services, not only at the time of the emergency. And I think that if you look at the countries and what's going on there, in some, it is indeed cultural issue, and we can look at the cultural and the ability to protest and not to trust and say things. In other countries, it would probably look differently if we look, do they have universal health coverage? What type of universal health coverage and access they have, and how the health system is put at the center. And I think this is one of the messages that at least we're trying to send, that in the future, the health services have to get a more prominent role so that the communication strategies and the risk communication and the mobilization and engagement of societies will be easier to explain. Because without doing that, the words that we are saying, they have to be covered by good actions behind them. Yeah.
Now, there are a couple of more questions from the public, so maybe I could go to one which is exactly on these universal health services. So somebody asked, what is the impact of the health system? But let me tweak that a little bit, because I think we have a kind of paradox of health systems. We have the National Health Services, which are very universal and provide very equal access to health care. On the other hand, the health insurance systems, for example, through social health insurance, have more differentiated types of insurance coverage. So, for example, in some countries, you now have mandated private health insurance, which our assumption would have usually been that the National Health Service may be more universal or provide a more egalitarian access. On the other hand, these social health insurance systems, which tend to be a bit more expensive, tend to also have higher capacity. They've been less good at controlling their costs, but now they have high capacity. So in a way, I'm wondering if we need to shake up our discussion of the pros and cons of achieving universal coverage, because there are two routes in Europe and they achieve high levels, but in different ways. And in the pandemic, we're seeing, I think, a shift that the countries that were good at saving money have really trimmed costs, and now they have some maybe lower capacities. So what would you all four of you say to this? So Dorrit, do you want to start, because you look ready to jump in, and then we go?
Thank you. Yes, I think that if we look at the pooling of resources, finance, and the financing itself, these are the tools to get to the universal health coverage. And yes, there are different ways to get to the same package. What we would like to see is a package of services that are people-centered, and quality care is in place. And yes, in the EU countries and the countries that we see in your what you just showed us with the YouGov, yes, these are countries that are definitely in the forefront and they are doing the great job. So you cannot really differentiate it among those countries. But WHO region here, we are covering 53 member states. And we see the difference. We see the difference between the East and the EU. And there, I think if you go there and we do the same survey, it will be, you'll see the real gap there. And I believe so. I'm not sure, but I believe so. And I think that for that, the package of services with people-centered continues and making sure that contact tracing and people are identified and cared for in time, do not have to pay out of pocket for this. This is the difference between the West and the other parts of the region. And it is very pronounced. Yeah.
Andrea?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's such a massive increase of cases, I think overwhelms any system. That I think we have clearly seen. On the other hand, I think it will also be now at the end part of the many evaluations that we have to do. What were the systems that could better search their capacity? Because this is what you need to do. You can have a normal time service, but you need to be able to ramp up the capacity quickly if such a crisis occurs. And there might be systems that can deal with it better than others. I can't now comment on this, but I think that would be a worthwhile question. And also look into what were actually the mechanisms how to search the capacity now. That is something that we can also already start collecting, because one way or the other, each health system has now tried to find ways how to enlarge their ICU capacity, the hospital beds, the healthcare staff, and so forth. And I think these are lessons that have to be learned, put together, and then put into the relative context. Overall, of course, one measure that helps all the systems to cope is reducing the number of cases. And that is why we advocated for these non-pharmaceutical measures, restricting the interaction of people, widening the physical distance, because that would ultimately help any system to cope with the situation.
G, did you have a comment on this?
Yeah, and since the epidemic occurred in China have the government are responsible for everybody's payment, so no patient has pay out of their pocket. I think that's the right thing to do, because we want to control the epidemic, so we don't want people hesitate to go to hospital, to be hospitalized, because if they need to pay out of their pocket. I think every country should practice on that. And I know possibly if you go to Africa and some countries, maybe they cannot do that right now. But I think in our industrial country, sure. And because otherwise, in every society, you just have disadvantaged people. They possibly cannot, it's so easy to decide to spend several $1,000, $10,000 in the hospital. So that's what I'm thinking. And every government need to do that to control the pandemic.
Great. Asia, did you want to go in there? So I have two more questions that ask different things about the science of this. So one is, why does this virus affect different people so differently? Is there really a good explanation for why we see a real bifurcation between very mild cases and then very, very severe things? And these severe cases have also been found in children, not just older people. There seem to be very big difference in what organs are attacked and what's going on with kidney problems, not just lung problems, brain problems. And the other question that is asking from a very different angle is that network analysis shows that there are tiny hubs where the epidemic starts spreading, like one party, let's say one family festival. And so if you can control that, you can kind of clamp down on the epidemic. And I think that's the opportunity that in some cases was missed. Like if they had not had Mardi Gras in New Orleans, that might have changed really the outcome in Louisiana. But then the second thing is that what really spreads it much more globally, of course, is when people travel long distances. So, is that kind of research finding its way into public health strategies, the difference between the local spread and the long distance spread? So
okay.
We have two different questions, whichever one you'd like to come in. Andrea, did you?
Yeah. So first of all, regarding the difference in severity of the disease, and that is something that is we see in almost all infectious diseases, that not everybody is equally affected. But how this specific virus attacks the body, how it attacks different organs, I think this is something where only now knowledge is accumulating. So we are still here also in the learning phase. Right now, we have only observed that, of course, some people are more severely affected, and then had correlations that these people had underlying diseases that already had affected them. But in particular, those that occurred as severe disease in young, healthy people are the ones that are baffling most. And these are the things that, I cannot explain it right now. I think we are only learning how this virus operates. And in terms of the seeding events, I will call it now seeding events, either be it a small party or a big mass gathering. I think that has been attempted quite early on, before actually all these social and physical distancing measures were more widely put in place, that these mass gatherings were prohibited. And what we see now retrospectively in Europe as the big distributing occasion was this last week in February and the beginning of March, where it was combined skiing holidays and carnival. So we really saw that after that, a lot of cases in other countries reported having been either on skiing holidays or at the carnival. So this was really, it's I think nobody has any doubt right now that this was one of the events that really distributed the infection within Europe. So that is, of course, something that I hope when it comes to the easing of measures, which in the packages in all countries include the prohibition of these mass gatherings, that this is one of the last things that will be allowed. Because there, as you say, it could have really have dramatic effects.
But can we really always, let's say, detect this early enough? Because it seems that, for example, in Italy, there was, one case in Codogno, a small hospital, and that seemed to be a major, maybe there were also other things, but are we always going to be so smart when the first case of a new virus shows up in our hospital? Can we really, what kind of early warning could we put in when one little case has such a big impact?
Yeah, we have to really be fair that at the time we didn't know things that we know now. So with the knowledge of today, of course, one single case of COVID infection will raise the alarm bell saying, well, if we have one case symptomatic here, there are dozens, if not hundreds out there in the community that are also already infected. And in fact, there is one other disease where we do it like this. One norovirus case in a hospital. I mean, you can't imagine what kind of measures are taken when you have one case. So because it's known that this is spread very easily. So I think this is also one of the lessons that we have to learn, that one case, if we say one case coming from a faraway country, imported here, there are others already. I mean, I'm sure that have come without detection before. So I think now we have much more experience also in not running into the risk being called for exaggerating the issue, because we know what's happening. Okay. But that is a learning process. And I mean, now it's 4 months that we know this virus, but we shouldn't forget it's a new virus. We didn't know, and it has completely other characteristics than any of the coronaviruses that we have been known so far. So all the correlations that we did and analogies that we tried at the beginning, they just don't apply.
Okay. We had one question that maybe is our final question, a bit provocative, whether democracy is helpful or not helpful for reacting to this virus. So if anyone would like to step in on that treacherous territory. Asia, did you want to say something?
Well, actually, I wanted to say something before that was still related to the issue of trust, and the second slide that you showed, and that somehow fits to this question that has been just made. I think one thing that this slide shows, percentage of people in each country who think the government is handling the issue very or somewhat well. It's always interesting to look at what happened when the curve changed. So what happened suddenly in that country when a line that was lower down suddenly goes up, like one, for Sweden, for example? What happens on the other way around, where a country's people express that they were high in trust, and that trust goes down? And I have a feeling that that could be linked to how you handle this from the government side, with relationship to how much you involve the people and how democratic your processes are. Also in terms of the communication strategies and the risk communication messages that you choose. Before sending out a risk communication message to kindergartens, let's say, have you actually involved kindergarten teachers, kindergarten organizations, parents, and perhaps even children, to how they will look at this? And this is, to me, the basis of democracy, is listening to each other and letting the other voice their concerns. And if we have that capacity, then the trust in each other, the trust from the people to their governments, and the trust from the government to the people will be higher, and you'll be able to achieve more. So that's...
Now, this actually seems like a very appropriate closing word. And I see on my screen here, we have 2 more minutes, and I don't know what happens then if we just get cut off and thrown out. So I'd like to take the chance now to thank you all for coming. This was very, very interesting. And we look forward perhaps to staying in touch and seeing how things develop on these issues. There is a lot of food for thought here. and was very enlightening to me to have the chance to speak to you all. So thank you so much for participating.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I guess I don't know if they will stop us or we leave, but I think that's it. So thanks again, and so I leave the meeting.
L'Europe ne se fera pas.
You know that special feeling when you finally see the bigger picture? When you look at something from a different angle and suddenly it all makes sense? When people from different backgrounds and cultures work together, sharing insights, looking for answers, posing new questions about the world we live in. Remarkable things happen at intersections. And the European University Institute in Florence is where you experience it. Pursue your PhD in economics, history, law, or political and social sciences.
I decided to do my PhD at the EUI because it provides a unique structure of the PhD where you can fully work on your own project.
Our professors are eager to help you contribute in your own way to a better understanding of our ever-changing world. Our campus is located among the beautiful hills overlooking Florence. We offer a well-structured and fully funded PhD program with close supervision, advanced courses, and training opportunities.
The UI makes a huge effort in bringing top professionals to come and give seminars to us. They also pay a lot of attention in making sure that they're matching with your supervisor.
You will have access to our first-class research library and the historical archives of the European Union.
To me, the role of archive is fundamental. As an early modern historian, but at the UI you find one of the most important archives in Europe.
You'll get plenty of opportunity to interact with visiting experts and leaders.
I would say that the student life at the UI is very lively. I mean, there are many clubs for sports activities or acting or music.
Experience a truly international environment in the company of over 1,000 scholars from 75 countries. You will make connections for life.
Why would I recommend the EY to new researchers? Well, I think it is because in this place you come here with your own research topic. You come here on your own proposal, and I think that's really unique. And I think if you use it right, then you can really make it an unforgettable time.
Apply now and become the best you can be.
We turn to network science for answers. Our studies suggest that we can open the economy as long as we protect workers who for their jobs must travel far. Network science tells us that a small fraction of long-distance connections is responsible for the rapid spread of a virus. This is illustrated in the top two charts. Block these long-range connections and the virus will suddenly spread much more slowly. This is illustrated in the bottom two charts. Also, new flare-ups of the virus will remain local longer, allowing geographically confined interventions at the city or neighborhood level. This is illustrated in the bottom left chart, where the virus gradually and slowly grows outward from an initial outbreak. By contrast, in the top right chart, the virus is quickly everywhere. So what should a government do if it has limited medical resources, limited ability and willingness to impose on individual freedoms? We believe that it may wish to focus those limited resources heavily on long-range commuting, transport and delivery sectors. To open up the local economy, give people local breathing room, but prevent the transmission of the virus over long distances. Fortunately, because most face-to-face contact is naturally very close to home, the burden on the economy and society may remain limited.